Hi, I want to welcome you all to today's session of 20 for 20 in 2020. Those of you that are familiar with my series know that I will be asking 20 questions of 20 professionals that you may be interested in choosing as you go through your life and try to make important decisions and want to know who you want to work with on making these decisions. So, as many of you know, I'm Ella Newman, a trusted insurance advisor with the Norton Advisory Group, and I help people create solutions to very important decisions that they need to make in their lives using insurance strategies that are very special and effective. And these are pertaining to estate planning, business succession, retirement, long-term care, and other important components of your life as well. At the end of our session today, I will be talking to you about a special offer as well as some more important information relating to what's going on in the insurance world. But right now, I'd like to introduce you to today's guest, who is Ivy Slater, and she is the head of Slater Success and an entrepreneur, a speaker, an author, a podcast host, and most importantly, a professional certified business coach. And so I'm so thrilled to welcome her today. I met Ivy a number of years ago when she was hosting a workshop in New York, and I attended that workshop and thought it was extremely effective and have stayed in touch with her on and off through the years and have been participating in a program she's been doing currently about how to be a visionary leader in unexpected times, which has been very powerful and important and effective. So, Ivy, welcome. How are you dealing with this pandemic? I know you're outside the city in a safe space. How's it going?
You know what? Overall, things are going just fine. I'll always say I'm going to be the person who's going to find and locate and highlight the silver linings of any difficult situation. And there has been a variety of them during this pandemic.
That's so good to hear. Well, I'm looking forward to introducing our audience to you by asking you our 20 questions. So we'll get started. So my first question is, what is the primary focus of your practice?
So primarily I work with business owners, supporting them, their scaling and growth of their organizations. I work with, I approach it from a very leadership standpoint. The stronger leaders we are, the better we can scale and grow.
Great. Now, what led you to this component of your career?
This truly happened. The birth of Slater Success was a result of a midlife crisis at 45. It was just one of those things that happened. It was my 45th birthday month, the month of April. It was also the anniversary of my father passing. He had died the April before. And, me being who I am, I was running a successful printing company, a 7-figure business, and, being a working mom, supporting my mom in this transition in her life and just doing everything. And that year later, I realized I never took my time, and I hit a wall. I definitely hit a wall, crashed and burned, and cried for 30 days. I'll save myself a Noah's Ark. And I was working out on the Upper East Side with a friend in Carlshills Park, and we're doing walking lunges, and I'm crying. And I said, I can't die a printer. There has to be more to me. I had such aspirations. And she goes, well, you've done so well. You have a major company, this, that, and the other thing. I was like, but I wanted to be a dancer. I wanted to be a producer. I wanted to be something that, left a legacy that I was so proud of. I said, I do. Yes, I do very well. And I make an impact, and I adore my team, and I love my clients, but it's got to be more. And she just looked at me and she goes, you ought to become a coach. And I said, soccer? And bear in mind, Ella, this was 2007. So coaching was not as known of an industry as it is today.
Right.
And she said, no, I'm in this coaching group. And she goes, because of you, I've expanded and built my business so significantly from the conversations we have when we work out together. She goes, you should become a coach and you should do this for others. And I had no idea what she was talking about. I 100% went home that night, opened Google and said, what is coaching? And came up with soccer and tennis. And it was like on page 3 that we started getting into what coaching is today.
Huh. That's really interesting. I enjoyed hearing that. Now, so you've been coaching for quite some time. How long has it been now?
Slater Success is, we are in business over 12 years. In midlife crisis, if anybody actually wants to count my age, happened in April of 2007, and Slater Success was opened in January of 2008.
Well, that's fantastic. And now you have so many clients, right? I can't even imagine how many clients you're dealing with.
I'm very, very fortunate. I happen to love business. I happen to love what I do. And I've been able to build an international client base. We have a few clients outside the United States, the majority in, a lot in the Northeast, a lot in the Northwest, actually. I have a bunch of clients in Seattle and California and Chicago and Atlanta. Most importantly, to me, it's never about the number. It's always about how I can serve somebody best.
That's perfect. And what would you say some of the highlights of this career coaching experience has been for you?
There's been a lot. Some of the highlights, I'll give you 2 different examples. Okay. A longstanding client, somebody I met at the Philadelphia Women's Conference, the Pennsylvania Women's Conference, years and years ago, is a brilliant woman. And, due to the life circumstance, she ended up, being laid off and this, that, and the other thing. But she was a CFO. She had an MBA. She's a CPA. She had more initials than I can know what to do with. And she was doing paperwork and paying bills for seniors at $25 an hour because she lost her sense of self-worth based on experience, based on a downsizing. And so jump forward to today, this year, 2020, her business has grown 30%. She is a CFO service, a virtual CFO company, virtual CFO and bookkeeping company. She has a team of over 10. She has clients in all over the place, and she is happy. She's thrilled. She is loving, because that's the important piece. She is loving life. She feels great about her business, and she feels great about herself. And that, that when you can help somebody shift their world that way and build a business is, there's nothing else like that. When a client reaches a huge milestone, something that they thought was really going to be tough, but we break down the action steps and, we support that consistency and we deviate as needed, and then they achieve it. Popping that, whether it be sparkling cider or Dom Perignon, doesn't matter. But that when I see our clients and really achieve greatness, one of our corporate clients a few years ago kept getting passed over for promotion, and we were engaged to work on leadership. And 3 months after that engagement completed, he got promoted, and 2 of his people got promoted because he was just running the whole department differently. That means the world.
That's very powerful. Those are great examples. That's wonderful. Now, what type of clients do you tend to work with most?
I'd say the majority of my clients, I work with an enormous amount of women. And I'll say I was working with an enormous amount of women and a few exceptional guys.
Mm-hmm.
I work with companies that are looking to scale,
Mm-hmm.
looking to grow. They're not just the ones who are going to like inch forward. They're the ones who say, okay, I'm ready. I'm ready to take this to a 30% growth, a
Mm-hmm.
50% growth, doubling our revenue at some time,
Mm.
you know, but really be committed there. You know, that's the clients that I work really well with because their drive is so strong.
That sounds great. That makes sense. What are some of the problems or issues you actually help your clients address?
Well, okay, so I'll give you an example from this year,
Mm-hmm.
from 2020.
Mm-hmm.
Um, the world went virtual, kind of like somewhere in and around March 13th, 16th or so. Um, and one of my clients is I do a lot of work with attorneys and law firms, and one of our meetings is like this boardroom meeting, a half-day meeting once a month for their leadership team, and that meeting happened on that Friday the 13th before everything literally shut down in a matter of like days, hours, and the leader is an established leader. She's led a firm for a very long time. And she was kind of having PTSD of the 2008 and 2009 recession.
Mm.
She's like, oh my God, we are, you know, this, what I'll talk about is this fear of scarcity. Nothing happened yet. We went virtual. There was nothing happened. This was before, right? No business stopped, but it was a fear of something repeating itself. And we shifted the perspective there. And we created a plan. So, you know, this person in the leadership team was assigned to do this. This person in the leadership team was assigned to do this. And her assignment was, I said, as the founding partner, I want you to get on the phone and I want you to just spend every day, we're going to break down how many clients you have and you're going to call people and just see if they're okay and if they're safe and how their families are. She's like, I could do that. I said, of course you can. And she goes, well, what else should I do? I said, that's what I want you to focus on. And she's like, what should I do after I talk to every client this year? I was like, go to clients last year. Go to some prospects. Go to people in your network, your relationships, people who refer you business. And what was wild is 90 days later at that same virtual meeting, she was like, I cannot believe the impact that made. We're getting referrals. Our phones are ringing.
That was perfect.
So I think, you know, it's so important, you know, we've all had experiences and not all of them are good. And we carry those experiences with us and it could stop us from growing. So it's working through that.
Makes a lot of sense. Again, very good response to that. Perfect. Why did you decide to become a business coach versus some other type of coach potentially, or, you know, that focus?
That's a great question, Ella. I thought I was going to do something completely different. I was like, I'm going to support working moms. I've been a working mother my whole life and the work-life balance. And this is what I'm going to focus my business on. I wrote an entire website around it. You know, no, I commit. Ella, you know me
Yes,
well.
I
I
definitely
commit
know.
in,
Yes.
you know, and then I started like getting into it. And I was like, this isn't for me. And then my printing clients were showing up of like, hey, you know, you know, I know you started this business and, you know, I'm not quite sure like exactly what you do, but I was going to open my own firm. I was going to open my own marketing agency. Can I tap your brain? Right? Oh, I'm going to go out and open my own design firm. Can I talk to you? Or some of the old design firms I worked with, like, hey, let me ask you about like growing this to the next level because, you know, you've grown several different businesses and da, 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 da. Let me ask you about what would it look like if I brought in a partner? Can I talk to you about that? What would it look like if I didn't want to stay with my partner? Can I talk to you about that? What would it look like if I hired more team? And then all of a sudden, you know, I refer to it as, you know, my Keith Richards moment when the coconut hit him on the head. He went down like, Ivy, maybe you should be doing this for a living. And that's when I really hunkered it down into working as a true business coach and consultant and advisor, and growth strategist, because what I do know is is business.
Right. That makes sense. And actually, you probably have already answered this next question. It's sort of, what do you love about coaching the most?
Making a difference in other people's worlds, in their lives. It's when a client a few years ago, when we helped them build out a really good team and really delegate well responsibility to grow her business. And she was terrified of letting go of those reins and controls. She's like, no, I have to do this and I have to do this. And she had a goal. Her daughter was getting married in July. And she's like, I have not taken 2 weeks off since I started my company. And I said, do you have another daughter? And she said, no. I said, so she's going to get married once, God willing. I said, what's the mom you want to be on that wedding? And she goes, and she was able to 100% trust the team she built, that her clients were so thrilled for her. They kept sending her messages, send pictures. We're thrilled for you. We're so excited. Let us see your daughter in her wedding gown. And she had such support from not just her team, but everybody was so behind her. And she goes, I didn't see this as a possibility. She
Right.
felt that she was tied to the business as opposed to leading the business.
Right. That's great. That's a great moment to describe. What is the biggest challenge you have been able to help your clients through?
There's been some real difficulties this year with certain clients.
Mm.
They have faced things that some of it I truly can't disclose. But there's a client whose business was severely impacted, and then her closest support tragically died. And there's, it wasn't that long ago I was on the phone with her on Sunday afternoon. There's been, we think business is the most important thing, but our lives are the most important thing. And it's when we're navigating so much and you have layers of tragedy that are coming through, or layers of crisis. It has been tough this year when people are navigating business and being hit and touched by personal crises at the same time. I'm finding that is the biggest challenge.
Right. Well, it's a tough year, very difficult. Hopefully we'll never see one quite as bad.
Agreed.
We never can say never, unfortunately, but let's hope. Let's think positively. I always do. Let's see. What is the biggest obstacle you have overcome in your life?
Whew, which one? So, I'm going to touch on, and then I'm going to be, so there was a business obstacle many, many years ago. I was in a partnership there was 4 of us, 4 business owners. And I opened the door that Monday morning and half the office was cleaned out with file cabinets opened. And that was small potatoes compared to when I jumped forward in my life. And I was opening this business. It was 2008. I was opening this company. I had invested in getting certified as a coach in 2007. My husband and I are both business owners always in different industries. Informed, always had good counsel, good attorneys, good accountants, things like this. And then there's that expression and you can fill in the blank because it's video, blank happens. And blank happened. And his business went under at the time that I was already exiting my printing company and building this. So my income went from here to here. And his income went poof in the night. It set us on a journey of redefining what our lives and our values. And I remember one night we were standing outside, we put our kids to bed, and the losses were massive. The personal tie, well, one sentence on one minor contract tied us personally.
Mm.
And so that was the disaster, was the personal tie. And we said, our kids are healthy and we're healthy. It's only money. If we made it once, we can make it again.
Right.
And, I said, well, I could go back and get a printing, a job in printing. I can make money in print as a printer, like of an eye. And he's like, do you truly believe in what you're doing? I said, absolutely. He goes, is it bringing you joy? I said, I love this. I love running this, I was like, I'm making bupkis. I was literally a few months in, making no money, a few $100s, barely $1,000. And we're raising 2 kids in New York City. And he's like, if you believe you could do this, do it. He goes, you'll be more successful doing that than going back to printing. He goes, and it was a terrible time in our lives. We moved 3 times in 2 years just to try to keep paying our bills. It was a very, very difficult time, and we navigated through it. We ended up putting 2 kids through college. He has gone on to build a massively successful business. I have gone on to build this company, which I truly know is hugely successful and more than anything makes an impact. So
that's great. Well, that's a great story, and it's very empowering, because often people, when they experience adversity, don't always feel that they can get beyond that, and they let it lead them in the wrong direction. But you did not let that happen to you, and you had a very special support person that also was there for you, and you worked together as a team, which all of that is so important in the process.
It's important to work through things as a team, and it's important to have support. And if you don't have that spouse who's supporting you, support comes in a variety of ways. Make sure you have support, and make sure that you don't fall off that cliff and stop. It's in staying in action that this how we move through these periods in our lives.
Exactly. Okay. So next question is, what do you expect a client to do as a follow-up to your coaching sessions?
Oh, they're assignments.
Okay, you give them assignments. Okay.
So I was on the phone yesterday with a client, and he's like, Ivy, he goes, I really liked when you had me doing this. And I said, yeah, that's really an important piece. I said, have you stopped doing that? He goes, yeah, I kind of fell off the wagon. He goes, well, we're doing other things. I said, no, we're layering on additional things. That doesn't mean we stop those actions. So sometimes, like, a client will say, so I really have nothing to do. I was like, no, that doesn't mean we're not layering on another piece today. It's what have we been doing? We're always evaluating what is working, what is not working. What are we seeing? What actions are we taking? And so, most coaching sessions end with, what's the assignment?
Right. That's important. Okay. And now, when you're working with clients, is there any particular type of business client you prefer to work with, or think, you have a better rapport with? You mentioned, like, you do a lot with law firms, or what would you say in that category?
It's kind of funny. I work with an enormous amount in the professional space. So it could be law firms, CPA firms, CFO firms, financial service. What's really funny is I seem to have developed a sweet spot in scaling service-based businesses after selling a product for 20 some odd years.
Interesting. Yeah.
It is
Very,
interesting, but
hmm,
it's very clear to me when we look at service-based businesses, building out teams, building books of business. You know, there's in a service-based business, very often the leadership team is challenged with, you know, getting clients, implementing the work, overseeing, you know, managing and running the business.
mhm, right.
And so there's a sweet spot there.
That makes sense. Um, how would you describe your approach to coaching?
Practical.
Mm,
Um, I, 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 I think more than anything, I just use a practical approach.
mhm,
And I play a hybrid between a coach and a consultant because of 20 plus years or 25 plus years of business experience, right? I'm going to weigh in when I see it will help. And the second I start weighing in, steps out of coaching into consulting. So I play that hybrid between a coach and a consultant.
mhm,
I'm not going to necessarily lay out the plans without you as a consulting firm.
mm,
We're going to develop them together.
mhm,
And then as a coach, I'm going to hold you accountable and help support you through those actions.
mhm. That's great. Now, in these times, I imagine you're offering your coaching online and in other ways than you were previously.
I have to tell you, I'm an early Zoom user. I have been using Zoom, I don't know, 4 or 5, maybe about 4 or 5 years now.
Mm,
Because I've always had clients in a variety of places.
mhm,
Um, I was never a fan of Skype, no disrespect to Skype, but never a fan of the quality in Skype. And so, especially like my international clients, when Zoom came around, I was like, my God, like, you're like right here. Where Skype, it always felt a little bit, the connection was never, to me, as strong.
mm,
Um, so I've had clients, I've been fortunate of developing clients all over the country and outside the country. So originally back in the day, it was all calls. When the ability to go video came into place, it was actually a test for me was, do I get a situation better without seeing them versus seeing them? Like, do I listen better without the video? Or by seeing them, am I getting more? And now we're about 90% video.
So I'm
And
assuming you decided that you get more out of seeing them.
yeah, you know, raised eyebrow says a lot.
I agree. I think you can
Yeah.
read a lot more into seeing the person respond. That's great. Now, what do you provide as ways for a client to work with you? I mean, are there different alternatives or packages or ways? How do you
Um,
do that?
so one of the most important thing to me is to, you know, we don't charge to actually just meet with clients and understand what's going on, understand what they're looking to achieve.
Mhm,
Um, if depending upon the scope, sometimes we often work on a retainer basis, and it will be a retainer basis based on scope of what we're looking to achieve. Possibly in some organizations, we coach more than just the leader. We show, like for an example I shared earlier, where we'll come in and work with the leadership team. Sometimes we come in and do additional trainings under that. If there's, you know, business development trainings and networking trainings and communications trainings. So we really want to get in at the beginning and understand what their goals are, what's working in their organization, and what their challenges are in their organization.
mhm,
And from that, scope is developed. I also have been doing, you know, small group programs for, oh God, out of my 12 plus years of business, over 10, whether they be called masterminds or other things. You know, now I'm running a peer advisory roundtable of a small group of leaders that come together, you know, a couple of times a month.
mhm,
And, you know, there's my insight as well as the insight and the support of the whole table. So that has been well received. And actually originally in this pre-pandemic, this was launching live and in person in April, and we had the 8 seats filled, and then we kind of hybrided it and played with it, and then, you know, defined it to move forward.
Okay, that's perfect. Let's see now. How long does a coaching engagement last?
I usually start working with my clients for 6 months. I'm not a believer that 3 months makes enough of an impact. We fall off consistency.
Right.
Although they say, you know, 90 days gives us the ability to create habits. Long-term success I have seen with a minimum of 6 months. And then I've worked with clients for 3 years, 5 years, 8 years. You know, very often a client came to me recently and they're like, so just send that contract for next year because obviously it's working. You know,
that's perfect.
Another client said recently this year, she's, you know, which was a beautiful thing for her to say and meant the world to me. She's like, I don't know where we would have been without your support this year and guidance when we got in our heads and you kept us practical.
Well, that's powerful. That can really mean a lot. Let's see. Where, this is easy. Where did you get your training and are you accredited?
I got my certification through IPEC, which I'm a huge fan of. I think they do a fabulous job. There's several coach training organizations that I think do a really good job. But I was certified through IPEC.
Terrific. What skills and experience outside of training do you integrate into your practice?
Ed, more than anything, I take my 20 years as a business owner. You know, opening that door and having your partners clear out half the office. Okay. You learn some lessons really fast. Like, what is the first thing you do? It's like, do you call your accountant or your attorney first? Right. Or, you know, versus, you know, hanging your head. So, I take my background as a business leader. I've also never stopped learning or educating. Okay. I've done various other programs. I've worked with other coaches who I admire, who I want to learn more about their methodology. And I'm not shy about that. I've done enormous amount of trainings around speaking because I've turned into a shy introverted kid has turned into a public speaker.
Right.
So everything I can do, I've written 2 books. We write blog articles consistently. I'm not a great writer. So I've developed, I've learned, I've read, I've watched, and then I get a great editor.
Right. That's always a good way to go. Perfect. Let's see. What skills and experience? Oh, we covered that. We talked about that. What can I expect if I work with you as a coach during a particular session with you? What would the exact experience kind of be?
Every session starts with acknowledging successes. Okay. And Ellie, you know this from coming on some of like even any calls I do.
Right.
I am always looking at successes first because for 2 reasons. One, we rarely acknowledge ourselves. You know, we're just like, yeah, it's done. It's done. So I think it's very important to acknowledge ourselves and applaud our own successes. That's on the mental mindset piece. On the business practical piece, it starts there because when we look at successes of what's working, it also leads us to see what we can develop more of and naturally leads into a conversation on what's not working.
That's great. Well, we've actually gone through 19 questions. We're now up to the last question, which is a little different. It is, what can you tell us about yourself that we wouldn't find out on the internet about you?
You wouldn't find out on the internet. I'm such an open book. So, okay, the background in dance you could find on the internet. The weekend gardener you could find on the internet. This is probably, okay, this you cannot find on the internet. I've always been an adventurous traveler. Okay, so I'm that person. I was married in 1985. I'll just say at 13 for those people who say, how old is she? You know, I was married in 1985, and my husband and I, when we were dating, we used to watch Marlon Perkins' Wild Kingdom Sunday nights at 7. Now I'm really letting a lot out here. And we got engaged, and I was more excited to plan the honeymoon than the wedding, complete honesty. And I wrote to the Kenya consulate, and I got all this information. I had it sent to the office where I worked, and I came home. And the next time we saw each other, I said, I kind of have a great idea for our honeymoon. So I married a man who, without knowing me, he would still not have a passport. Okay. I was in England, so he got a passport to come visit me when I was in college, right?
Uh-huh.
But before that, his saying was, I'd never been further west than West Virginia. Got it?
Yes.
They drove to Florida and back to see the family. That was it. That was his upbringing. And I came home and I'm covering pamphlets to do a safari in Kenya. And he's like, are you out of your mind? Like, this is what you want for a honeymoon? You don't want to go to Hawaii or Italy or anything like that? I'm like, no, we'll go there like later in life. Like, who cares? And I was like, let's go to Kenya. Let's go on safari. He's like, you really want to do this? I said, I think it would be amazing. It would be a honeymoon like no other. Now, of course, today now people do that. But he thought I was crazy. And then as we started like researching in that time was very different. It was truly reading books and highlighting and putting paper slips and things and tearing things out and, going to the library and getting articles and writing the Kenya consulate. And we had a 10-day safari in Kenya. And it was the most amazing, amazing thing. And I think the business lesson I learned there, because there was, we spent a couple of days in Nairobi, and then we went out to the Maasai, this beautiful tented camp. And, we're all we're babies. We were like 23 and 25, right? And they welcome us, and they walk us to the tent, this, that, and the other thing. And they said, is there anything you're celebrating while you're here? And we're like, well, yeah, it's our honeymoon. They're like, it's your honeymoon? You just got married and we weren't notified? It's like, if we went to Hawaii, the travel agent would like send, a bottle of wine and a strawberry, right?
Uh-huh.
If you went to Italy, you'd get a bottle of Prosecco, and gelato, right? Yeah. We never even thought, the travel agent never did anything, never even inquired, because this was a new experience for her. So she didn't give a lot of information on her clients. And they were so upset. They're like, oh my goodness, if we would have known it's your honeymoon, we do all these special things. So glad we know now. And it was that concept of, you have to speak up.
That's right. That's really important.
That was, that's what you wouldn't find out about me.
That was fantastic.
Traveler.
That's great, because not many people, as you said, did that kind of thing at that point in time. It became much more of a trend later, but you really were ahead of your time. I will admit that for my honeymoon, I was a bit ahead of my time. This was way before yours, and not to the extent that you were doing yours, but we had gone to Europe, and we went to Spain and Portugal when a lot of people were not doing that.
That was not common.
Not a common thing. And I had arranged this whole thing. I think we were there for almost 2 weeks. Wow. And speaking of husbands, my husband had never been on an airplane. is the honeymoon was the first flight out
Right.
right after the wedding. I could not talk to him the whole flight. So that was an interesting experience,
And
but
how
very
he's
well
grown
worth it.
since.
It's worked out well, and he loves flying and doing all these things, and has been all over
Right.
the world. So, yeah, but it's interesting if you try something new, sort of ahead of its time. It's a very exciting to do that. So, thank you for sharing all this, Ivy. This has been fantastic. Now, if you could tell our audience what the best way to get in touch with you would be, that would be great. So, how do they
Absolutely.
reach out?
So, two ways. Come check out slatersuccess.com. On there, there's a few different resources. You could download a video that's 7 Traits of Great Leaders, a video that I did that has the 7 traits that I believe is in great leaders. You could also download a free chapter of my book, From the Bar to the Boardroom, Choreographing Business Success Through Authentic Relationships. And you can reach me by just pressing the contact page. Another way is reach out to me on LinkedIn and say, hey, I heard your interview with Ella, and let's
Great.
have a conversation.
Perfect. That's terrific. Thank you, Ivy. That's fantastic. So anyway, I did promise our viewers that I would just tell them a few things about what they should be doing now that we're reaching the end of the year. It is really important that if you own any insurance products, that you have them reviewed at this time, specifically since if you haven't done anything in that regard recently in the last couple of years, because of the low interest rates and changes in the economy, there's going to be repricing and reviewing, and there have been changes in the actuarial tables that have been used. So there are lots of reasons to have a professional take a look. So I'm offering a free review, complimentary review. Reach out to me at ella@nortonadvisorygroup.com, and I'll be happy to set up a virtual appointment and get those particular things reviewed with you and have that conversation. And that's complimentary. Also, because of these low interest rates and other changes that are occurring as a result of the election and what's coming forward in terms of estate planning changes that might occur, lots of specific actions can be taken now using premium financing and sophisticated strategies. So if there are things you were planning to do, this is the time to take a strong look at that now and also in the early part of next year before some of these changes get implemented and you haven't got an opportunity to take those actions. So in the meantime, I want to thank you for joining us for this session of 20 for 20 in 2020, and look for the next one. I hope to get this posted for us on LinkedIn and maybe in other sites that would be appropriate. And I want to make sure you stay healthy. And we're coming into the holiday season, so have a very good holiday. And thank you. And thank you, Ivy, for joining us.
Thank you, Ella. This has been great.
Okay, thank you so much.